but coming back subtler than ever. Thinking. It's like breathing. Of course I think of Doctor Who stories all the time. And the BBC had decided to set up a whole great big new future with it. There are rules. There are things you can do. There are things you can't do. Pushing against those rules is part of the job as well. But I was really keen to kind of make sure it didn't just get thrown to the lions. I tell you, actually, it is the same old Doctor Who. It's still daft. It's still got jokes. It really is the same old show. I hope a brand new audience comes in to watch it, but...
Hi everyone. Well, evening. Sorry for spoiling your night. We have my stellar panel. Joe up in chilly Edinburgh, I understand tonight, as it is windy here. And I think in the slightly better climb is Divine and Dragon, our Christian as well. So good to see you both. We had ordained from our, former showrunner some lovely, tasty comments. What were you thinking, Joe?
I was thinking, you little liar. It's not the same Doctor Who. I think you just put yourself in a handsome black man avatar and you just went for you put yourself in the role and you just did what you wanted, and to hell with the rest of us. That's what I think.
Oh, I love the way Christian, he says, oh, it's the same old Doctor Who and it's got fun and gags, and I'm going, what?
Precisely. Well, what caught me is when he said subtle. Subtle? Subtle, thy name is not RTD. And now a Sledgehammer would be very much in line with his grace, his flow, his style.
So welcome everybody. RTD is all over this, but we're going to say what we think. We those of you watchers, we've been saying for 3 months, Disney's out, Bad Wolf's on probation, RTD's out. We've said it so many times I got bored with it. I understand some people get excited that apparently RTD might say something, but of course, whether he sends a press release or not, I'm more bothered about the fact that he went ages ago, and what's he done to my program? He's disabled it by what he's done to the program. And there's a lot we want to talk about tonight. And there's also a lovely trailer coming up about an exclusive guest Senssphere have this week. And it's a very, very appropriate guest for the news in Doctor Who this week. I'll show you the trailer in a minute. Don't worry, I won't tease you too long. Yeah, in a moment. So tonight's show is all about how I think, to my argument, and obviously I've got my friends to discuss it, how I think Russell T Davies disabled Doctor Who. I don't think some people would like me to say destroyed, because we'd like to have hope. But I think he's disabled it. He's diminished it. He's reduced it. He's made it so beige, I don't know if I recognise it anymore, which is why I think we were both laughing at some of the comments he was making there. Now, let's be truthful. This week, as well as talking about RTD and what the source has said about RTD, I do have some very interesting guests. So, shall I show you?
Urgent message to all Senssphere agents. Incoming exclusive. Where did I hide those mucky movies from Dirty Dave? Stinking Jehoshaphat, I thought it was a wife. I'm trying to find some Doctor Who missing episodes for Walkie. You know those 60s classics that had most hiding behind the sofa? Or in Walkie's case, wetting the carpet behind the sofa. Well, this week we have an exclusive interview with Philip Morris, the very man who found Web of Fear and Enemy of the World. Who knows if he's found more? Only on the Senssphere. Don't go missing in action. Stay tuned, Sensorites, and we'll keep you posted. Now where is that blue movie?
So yeah, I mean, honestly, Christian, as Doctor Who fans, we get this now and again, missing episodes, the talk, and I've tried to dismiss it, but clearly Sue Malden at Film is Fabulous has clearly made statements that something is coming up and is imminent, and I straight away Philip Morris is on. I'll tell everybody the day once he's confirmed tomorrow. So at the moment, Philip Morris is on and we can ask him anything we want. But Christian, just before we move on to tonight's show and RTD and what he's done, what do you think? I'm not going to ask you what you would like to be found, because what we'd like and what we think is out there. My fear is that the ones we've got animations of will be found, and it's like,
Now, that's exactly what I was thinking. Statistically, the probability is, since they've animated so many, it'll end up being something that's already been animated, and one of those that we really would like to see that have not yet even been attempted in animation. Those won't be what we witness. God, I would love to see some of those other stories at this point.
yeah. Do you look a lot at the old ones, the big old ones, Joe?
I have been more recently as my son's been exploring, you know, in the sort of Who void. We've been dipping in and out of things, and he's been sort of exploring the older Who's, which has been really nice because I only got them on repeat. I came along sort of 1983, so we were already kind of heavy into repeats, and so yeah, we've been exploring them a bit more recently, and I've been quite enjoying it. So I would love to know. Oh gosh, you know, anything new from old Who is always such a beautiful gem that we've always got that hope, don't we? So yeah.
I'll even take Space Pirates. I will. I just want, I mean, just to see Troughton in action. I mean, just another domed episode. So, plenty on the show tonight. And yes, this week, keep a lookout for notifications, everybody. Philip Morris, exclusive on Senssphere. No questions are off limits. Be a good one. So make sure you're there for that one. So, we've got plenty to get moving on to. So, this is tonight's show, everybody. You know the Teach there. Mad Mackham is well aware, as Teach would say. We're going to be looking at the compromised Doctor. I think the Doctor's been disabled by RTD. How it's been made into a lighter brand. And I think some people at the BBC and various places think that is all it is. How RTD failed to believe in the uniqueness of the brand. He says there, and there's other clips I'll show tonight where he says how unique Doctor Who is. Then why the hell were you trying to emulate and copy other stuff? And I'll be starting on that in a minute. Selection of weak writers or poor sci-fi writers, and compromising classic Who as well. I mean, God, there's plenty there. Which one are you finding, Christian, the most antagonistic, the most triggering out of that list?
I would say, from this perspective, it's the weak writing pool. You can stylize a lot of things on the screen. You may like some of what you see, some interpretations you may dislike a little bit. But if you have weak writing, it just destroys anything. Let's just paint a slightly different picture here. Let's say they still had Gatwa running, but all of the writing had been eminently strong. People look at it and they say, oh my God, those are the most tightly written stories we've seen in 10 years. Then a lot of people would probably be willing to give a little bit of grace to some of the elements that we disliked because the writing was so strong.
What are your thoughts, Joe?
I think that's a great point. That's the one I initially was pulled into, because I was quite disgusted at him going for almost entirely activist writing. There was no sci-fi love in there. There was no, he went for a complete, it was all activists as far as I know. And they all didn't seem, they didn't go for sci-fi. They didn't go for Doctor Who. They went for a completely and utterly biased, skewed bunch of people, and made it inaccessible to a lot of other people because of it. And the choice of writers was quite shocking, actually. And that's worthy of its own show, is dismantling what he did there with those writers.
And I will be doing, Joe. I mean, some people say to me now and again, Brendan, too much about RTD sometimes. hold on a minute. I personally now, as a Doctor Who fan, I'm going to hold RTD to account. And I know sometimes we go rogue, this, that, and we could list loads of things. No, I'm going to have shorts as well. I'm going to go in and look at certain dialogue and how it was. How the hell could RTD write that piece of dialogue and be a Doctor Who fan? I'm going for it, baby. And sometimes it's not about the views. Sometimes it's just about being authentic and saying, I want to say my piece, because that man never shuts up. So yeah, there's going to be a bit of that. Join us if you want, everybody, but have a handrail. JWC Reviews, good to see you, my friend. The rot started when Doctor Who became regarded as a franchise. Oh, I know that word. Woohoo. In my opinion, they tried to treat it like the Marvel and other franchises. You know what I've said for a while, JWC Reviews and panelists, that as soon as they treated Doctor Who as a cultural icon, we'd lost it. And it's like some totem pole for this or that or certain agendas, instead of just being good story writing and a good little yarn.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. You cannot create a franchise without branching out in many different directions. And every direction you go in has to have as much gravitas as the parent show. The problem that he had is the parent show was not healthy before they wanted to envision it as a franchise. You have to make sure that the parent show is solid before you even open up any other doors.
Yeah, and Joe, you've been in the industry. I understood, talking to the source, I understood on budgetary reasons why you would do back-to-back seasons 1 and 2. I understood that. But Joe, I still can't fathom why we were in a race to get loads of Doctor Who episodes out there when what did Disney? I mean, Disney's contract clearly goes for another year or two. So Disney weren't saying you must make 28 episodes and they must be done by May the 1st. Surely quality, Joe, at some point.
I think he sold them so well. I can imagine him going into that initial meeting. We've got Doctor Who. We're going to take him into the future. We're going to take him into the future with your guidelines, like you're doing with Marvel, and we're going to inject all this gender woo, which they did too. I mean, it was actually quite in line with what we saw happening with Marvel and other, So I can imagine that meeting being really positive, and we're going to put this in, and because it was in line with what they did to a lot of Marvel and what they did to loads of other brands at about the same time. So I can see how it happened. But I wish someone had the foresight to leave Doctor Who out of what was happening at that time.
Joe, am I stupid?
Yeah.
Am I stupid, Joe, that in the industry there's all these executives getting big wage packets for being responsible for drama, for being responsible for certain output, for commercial sale, all that stuff. But they don't seem to have noticed that the scripts were shoddy, that actually the Doctor Who brand was being taken way off beam, that RTD was out of control. I felt as though nobody was script editing. I felt like people weren't checking their homework.
He was on a leash before, wasn't he? Because the first time, he was on a leash, and it worked. It worked really well, and he did modernise it. He did bring Doctor Who to a whole new people. I mean, we've got to give him credit there. But the second time around, the approach was off leash, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. I like you say, you keep questioning how he can be a fan and do what he did, and I completely agree with that.
Yeah. Now, before I bring you in again, Christian, I just want to remind everybody that he is going to be given an award for outstanding. Sorry, I mean, are we in the same universe? But basically, here we go. I will just show this, and I will come back, Christian. Okay. So basically, he's to be honoured at the 2025 BAFTA. There you go. I slipped up. My mic might not be working, but the BAFTA Awards. Anyway, I will vacate and come back. But obviously, I'm just going to talk about the irony. I mean, I don't know. There's Scottish awards as well. Shooty's up on that list. It seems to be if I had a Northern England award, I might be up for the only YouTuber in my street. I don't know. It's pathetic, isn't it? So, See you in a mo.
Alrighty. So I'm looking at this. He's going to receive the Outstanding Contribution to Television at the event in Newport on 5 October. Davies is regarded as a trailblazer within the LGBTQIA plus drama and is the showrunner at long-running BBC sci-fi show Doctor Who. Journalist and Newidian co-anchor Bethan Rees-Roberts has also been honored and will receive the Sean Phillips Award. Russell began his career 40 years ago as a graphic artist for BBC children's program Why Don't You? And then helped bring Doctor Who back. Thoughts, Joe?
Maybe they just couldn't think of someone else because I mean he tanked the show. He tanked the show.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Is Wales that desperate that they have to root around and just? Is it just maybe they're just all buddies and they're ignoring everything and the facts because they must be?
Well, it's a little bit of nepotism, perhaps. Trying to quote honor one of their own, unquote. But I would almost be embarrassed to have placed Doctor Who in this list. Some of his other items have been successful, and there hasn't been this kind of blowback in those areas. So I say they probably should have just omitted Doctor Who from the credit list. It would have saved them a lot of grief.
I'd like to see what the response to this is and what others are saying about it because it's laughable. I'm sorry, you absolutely tanked a beautiful show. And you're getting an award, and this is BAFTA. This is BAFTA. Am I reading that right? I mean,
well, I can't take it seriously first of all, when I see the mention of the recipient RTD, I don't take it seriously anymore. I can't take it seriously. And when I look at the credit for Doctor Who, which has largely been trashed, I can't take it seriously even more. So, Brendan?
Well, I mean, and I don't know what you've both been saying because I was taken off my own show. I mean, ironic. But I understand. He did Queer as Folk. It was groundbreaking. I understand.
Queer as Folk was an absolute banger. I loved it. There's no taking away from that. But what are we talking about here? Is he going to dine on that forevermore?
I don't know. This is the industry to me. It's just kind of, outstanding award for having breath in your body and you've done more than a few scripts. I don't know. I mean, if he was an award-winning outstanding writer today, because it's today when he's getting the award, then Doctor Who wouldn't be in the state it is, and he wouldn't be, disappearing from Doctor Who if he was outstanding. The standard is stripped. And the irony of these awards all the time, Joe and Christian, is by the time people get outstanding awards, they're not. It's an old judgment.
No, it's a shame for some Welsh talent, actually. I think if you or I spend 5 minutes looking into who are currently in the Welsh, because this is for a Wales-specific award, right?
Yeah.
I bet there's a Welsh talent out there that really does deserve a bit more, that does deserve recognition and a bit of attention. So I think this is a bit disingenuous to Wales.
There will be a sheep in Bangor typing away on some hillside saying "Bar humbug," going mad. But yes, you can see I really appreciated that award. I thought that was really very clever, and of course, knowing that. And knowing what I was going to say about how he's disabled Doctor Who, I just want to show everybody this quotation from the San Diego Comic-Con last year. And this is where we're going next, about how he just didn't believe in the brand and decided to just make it so beige. So, of course, here he waffled on saying, "I'm serious. I just wish science fiction was like a child's imagination and all these properties, Marvel, etc., could cross over. Because they're doing your head when you're 8. You have Daleks battling the Sith." So, knowing that, folks, it's going to get poisonous. So, to please everybody, before we start talking about this, how about a crazy cliffhanger? How about John Pertwee and the Sea Devils? We know our history. Good on you, John Pertwee, Katie Manning, proper Sea Devils, John Friedlander, great masks, great era. And sorry for spoiling it. I'm blaming Garbage Who, everybody. Subscribe to him. You know, Sea Devils turned into mermaids. That was a reveal for the spin-off coming up, thanks to RTD. But yes, thank you, Garbage Who. So yes, at San Diego, oh, they had a great day out, you know, Joe. They got a bit of sun on their back. They shared a few panels, the usual one about Doctor Who. But then, of course, they went further, Joe, and they shared one with Star Trek. And of course, friendship is universal. And just to remind everybody from a year ago, because this is why, when I showed you RTD at the beginning saying, I take Doctor Who very seriously. Doctor Who is safe in my hands. I was concerned about a streamer coming in who didn't understand the rules of Doctor Who. So I want to take over, make it into a cartoon. I want us mentioned as a scrap piece of TARDIS in a Star Trek adventure. I mean, what are you doing? So, of course, I just wanted to remind people how cavalier he has been with such a unique brand, which he acknowledges himself. So we got all this tat. And then, of course, we've had all this gossip about a character in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And she's going to be, I mean, I'll show you in a minute, because this was their great wheeze, Joe and Christian. Alex Kurtzman and RTD. We'd love to announce a crossover between the two franchises, but only the fans can make this happen. It must happen, darlings. Oh,
No, the fans don't. We don't. We're perfectly happy with them quite separate, doing quite separate things and not getting messy. Thank you very much. That's two guys getting drunk and deciding to do their own thing. Yeah, again, they're not listening to. They're not. You know, anyone good at their work does research. Anyone that has, you know, they listen, they pay attention, they look through details, and that's just been completely lost here, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one of the observations I shared with Brendan earlier was, you may love steak, you may love ice cream. I'm not about to chop up a steak, put it in a barrel of ice cream, stir it around and say, look at this new concoction I have, steak ice cream. It's not going to go down well. Some things are designed to be enjoyed separately.
Yeah. I mean, you see how Amazon and James Bond and they in those photographs took the gun away. I've seen other photographs of put the gun back, where there seem to be compromising brands when they take ownership of it. And RTD seemed to be saying in that clip at the beginning that, you know, it's safe in his hands. In fact, just to remind everybody, he did say it was safe in his hands. Here it is, evidence.
We're coming back subtler than ever. Thinking. It's like breathing. Of course I think of Doctor Who stories all the time. And the BBC had decided to set up a whole great big new future with it. There are rules. There are things you can do. There are things you can't do. Pushing against those rules is part of the job as well. But I was really keen to kind of make sure it didn't just get thrown to the lions. I tell you, actually, it is the same old Doctor Who. It's still daft. It's still got jokes. It really is the same old show. I hope a brand new audience comes in to watch it, but I say.
Right, good luck with that. No audience in sight. He didn't want Doctor Who thrown to the lions. What the hell did he do with it? He chatted up Alex Kurtzman and said, let's just do these stupid Easter eggs with each other, instead of thinking, keep Doctor Who preserved. Doctor Who was limping. It was a wounded animal after the Chibnall years. Let's build it up. Let's launch it again. Let's make it a strong brand.
But isn't it interesting, Brendan, that he immediately started his whole revamp by taking Tennant, who was beloved by many, and reducing him into an absolute pancake? I mean, he was a great doctor. Did he have a personal... I was actually watching it thinking, what's Tennant done to you? Are you annoyed at Tennant? Because he's taken an absolute whopping here. You're making him into an absolute idiot and a fool. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing with my eyes. So sorry to jump on you there, but it's just... No. The first thing the man did was take a beloved face and... just disrespect it completely and treat it like an idiot. And but here's the more improved one. This Bijah, you know, it was nuts. The first thing he did was nuts. It was
He
horrible to watch.
he got 3 specials with money and decided to make them unspecial. He decided to take apparently a really loved actor doctor combination in David Tennant, as you say, and diminish him as a 14th Doctor by Mickey jokes about him being thin and shouldn't be wearing trousers like that, making him fancy Isaac Newton, and just making him do stuff that he wasn't doing before. Why? Why? Was there a need for it? Was there an urgency for it? This waffle he did about there's a dark world out there, and in this dark world, everybody needs a David Tennant doctor who actually fancies an Asian Isaac Newton that never existed. All right, what sort of dark, twisted world's that?
No,
Well,
the
he was-
doctor's for everybody. Captain Jack was the one that we could all jump in bed with, and we were all fine with that, yeah? sorry.
In many ways, that had already been established. That was the irony. If they wanted to mend fences and bring Barrowman back, they could have done so. They opted not to. So, again, he talks about being subtle. There's no subtlety in RTD at all. He doesn't have that capacity. Certainly
No.
not in Doctor Who.
And I did promise I'd bring in Jim Hillis. I mean, people write to me when they see my thumbnails, and I said, "Oh, to be quite honest, I said I'll bring you in because this was your criticism, Jim." A few thoughts. RTD did not damage Doctor Who or disable the show. In fact, his attempts to sermonise his articles of faith have spectacularly backfired. It is reputation and that of his co-producers that has taken the hit, and what a spectacular own goal it is that they have scored. Doctor Who does indeed have an elemental and unique character all of its own. And as Chibnall and Russ discovered, you mess with it at your peril. The hubris and arrogance of the dynamic duo has been rewarded with the lowest viewing figures and audience appreciation indices in the history of the show. The message is clear. If you disrespect the audience and the essential nature of the show, then that contempt will be revisited upon you tenfold. Big Finish and the official magazine are learning the same hard lesson. It's tough, but deserved instruction. My prediction: in time, Doctor Who will return better than ever. Well, we all know, we just will not say anything, but we all know that people are trying things. People are out there giving hope, but it takes time. And so, everybody, there is hope out there. It's just that we are not one of those channels that can just announce willy-nilly exclusives, because I respect the industry and the sources I know, because they are doing stuff that's very sensitive. So it's very hopeful. But yeah, I agree with Jim. I mean, 10 out of 10 there.
Oh yeah. That sounds very credible. But we've discussed this quite often. RTD didn't have the capacity to respect the property and respect the fans that gave it life, because that interfered with the message he wanted to send, which is unfortunate because the show has taken so much damage. I like the initial thumbnail with the stretched arm. He's basically transmogrified, warped that universe to such a degree that it doesn't reflect what Doctor Who truly can be at its best.
I mean, Joe, I know what we're trying to do. When I saw Wild Blue Yonder and I saw the behind the scenes making of this, and it was amazing, all the prosthetics they did and everything, and how they made. But in the end, in its execution, I still thought it made Doctor Who just look like a joke.
Yeah, he was. I would really love to have been a fly on the wall to the discussions he had with Tennant and the other actors about what he was going to do with the characters, and how he managed to talk them into being on board with it would be really interesting. Because my initial reaction would as Tennant would have been like, I don't think I would have liked it. And I don't know how he got, I saw a comment earlier about it was upsetting what they did to Donna Noble's storyline as well. That's a really good point, because that was such a big deal what happened to Donna. And just to go back and undo that, as well as everything he was doing to Tennant, he did to Donna. Then we got the most beautiful girl in the world, trademark trans person, who, look, we could have easily had trans characters. That wasn't the issue. It was the way it was force-fed into us. Almost dictatorially so. That was not. It was just way overdone.
it broke my heart seeing that. I look at the Donna Noble story as the one New Who companion arc that was standing apart from all the others. We've had him forcibly separated from his partners or his partners walking away, but you did not have the poignant arc of a companion having to surrender all of the growth that they had developed in order for the story to go forward. And that becomes one of those bittersweet moments that stands apart from the others. And he was willing to go back in and undo something that had power, that had emotional resonance. And I don't understand that. If he wanted to give his message to the audience, there were other ways, other characters he could have crafted to accomplish that.
I mean, I tried to put them in sections, but as Joe said, I mean, he compromised classic Who. I include Bonnie Lanford, the Sutek, Omega, the Rani. I could go on. It was just ridiculous what he did to the brand. He wrecked Regeneration. He colorized the stories, but also butchered them at the same time. It was just too much. In a matter of only 2.5 years, he's gone from being the savior custodian, I'm saving Doctor Who from the lions, to we were in the pit in the Colosseum, we were charred meat on the floor, and people were brushing us up, being put in the bin. Honestly, I think it's the most shocking wrecking of a show so quickly that I've ever seen.
I agree. I think you will get your Christians or Dragon here's a good example. Like I think Americans who were fans of Doctor Who have picked up on that a lot as well. There's the absolute devastation that they did to Doctor Who, and the fans. And for me, it was personally heartbreaking. I know I've spoken a lot about what Doctor Who meant to me personally, but to see my son refuse to go and see Billie Piper. There's a Comic-Con coming up. Now, we would have ran there at great speed to see Billie Piper. We would have been high this week waiting on seeing Billie Piper in the old world. He doesn't give a monkeys now. And that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because there was more to it than just a show. It meant a lot to a lot of us. It was a wee bit of a lifestyle as well. And I can't believe my son just shrugged when I said, oh, we could maybe see Billie Piper. And he just shrugged.
Well, first of all, I mean, there's a lot to cover here, but thank you for that. Jamie's helping me out with super chats when I can't see them. Randy Howell, thank you very much. You donated £10 to the Film is Fabulous Trust. Let's support their work and the recovery of lost Doctor Who episodes. And Philip Morris has got a lot to say about that. I know he's already been tweeting about it. And as you know, he is going to be on our show this week. And there's going to be a lot of discussion. Please, that might be, you might need to get in early, everybody, with your seats and maybe shonky chats and everything. But basically, yes, I agree with what you've done, Randy Howell, there. And obviously, I'll just do one more reminder at the moment.
Urgent message to all sense-free agents. Incoming exclusive. Where did I hide those mucky movies from Dirty Dave? Stinkhead Jehoshaphat, I thought it was a wife. I'm trying to find some Doctor Who missing episodes for Wookie. You know those 60s classics that had most hiding behind the sofa? Or in Wookie's case, wetting the carpet behind the sofa. Well, this week we have an exclusive interview with Philip Morris, the very man who found Web of Fear and Enemy of the World. Who knows if he's found more? Only on the Sensorier. Don't go missing in action. Stay tuned, Sensorites, and we'll keep you posted. Now, where is that blue movie?
Yes, it's all happening. So just to make my quick points about the disabling of Doctor Who, 3 quick points. We'd only just started with Space Babies and there was a crossover tease then. I mean, how far do you go when you joke about another brand being part of your universe? Is it just a throwaway line? But then, of course, we had another episode where the TARDIS is seemingly trapped with the USS Enterprise in a star-eating monstrosity. And of course, we've all seen it. I'm nothing special here, but I'm just reminding you of the problem that this mashup, this diminishing of the brand, this playing with the brand, this kind of toying with it and thinking it's unbreakable, risky. And so, of course, we had that. But then, of course, the rumours came again that there's a third example of Alex Kurtzman and RTD in just their 2 years playing around. And of course, this character, she's a chief engineer, Pellier, in Strange New Worlds. She is going to have a line, remind me to tell you about the time I spent with the time-travelling doctor. Now, these are just throwaway lines. But why is it necessary? Why are we doing that? Do they think I am that sad, that desperate, when I'm sat at home, that I need a tasty bit of dialogue that I'll hold close to my heart? I couldn't give a toss. Can we just have a bloody good story?
They were both injected with the same venom. Both those shows got the woke virus injected heavily, and it destroyed them completely. So it makes sense that they're marrying it in this way. Had they still been successful, had they still been doing well, it might have been interesting had there been a follow-through, had there actually been a crossover where we saw characters get together and it had been thought out way better than it is with payoff. How often, I mean, that brings up another point. We got a lot of setups with no payoffs as well from RTD. We got history boxes that were empty. And that was just another one, and it makes a mess of both shows. It's disgraceful, the lack of planning, and it's almost like what's the word for it? Let's just do it. Let's not plan it. Let's just go by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, spontaneous. Yeah, I mean, you're like my top student here. I'm sorry to say it like that, but because. There's my lesson. There's my lovely lesson plan, Joe, and the one you're hitting big time there. It is again under the weak writers and treating it lighter, because I have got a section, and I'll give the photographs later, where basically you've listed a few. But honestly, Joe, we had Mrs. Flood, the Rani, the anger management issues of the Doctor that one resolved. Susan, I mean. This bric-a-brac. Do we really know what happened to Poppy? I mean, normally you see a lovely happy moment at the end. The Doctor's was enjoyed to the world. Poppy, I don't know if she's laying upside down in some swamp on Beta 2. I haven't got a clue. I don't know if she's married a space baby. The whole thing is kaput.
And we still got another Doctor. I mean, this fascinates me, yeah? We still have Tennant's Doctor.
Oh, yes, Whedon. He's in the Rose Garden, yes.
I mean, there's a Doctor out there, guys. It's pure insanity. It's like you put it in the CERN machine. I feel like I've been in and out the CERN machine. There's no other explanation for the madness.
Well, there's some madness for you, Christine. I mean, the Fugitive Doctor, that was played with, spurned. I mean, if you look at our two series that, as you say, Joe, was so spontaneously, it felt like thrown at us to see what would stick. We had Fugitive Doctor, Mrs. Flood, the Rani, Omega, Sutek, Poppy, the Ruby Sunday arc. Like I said, Susan, Christian, this is just too much to hold, even if you're an outstanding writer, and he's not.
Exactly. He needed to find one anchor to drive the narrative through each series of 8 episodes. And he didn't have that. Instead, he sprinkled in member berries. He was baiting the audience with setups that would ultimately have no payoff. And he doesn't, I am beginning to think he doesn't have the talent to carry out a payoff, really, in science fiction parlance. He can't land the plane.
I think what happened is, sometimes we all learn in life, don't we? Something happens and we get lucky. He managed to make the 4 knocks work. He'd said 4 knocks in the script, and he hadn't worked out the resolution. He
Oh,
hadn't
yeah.
worked he hadn't worked out how Torchwood and everything would come together. He had a moment of serendipity. He had a moment of genius. We might be lucky once, but to rely on that, is it talent or is it just that moment, that stroke of genius? And he was relying on that happening with Susan, the anger management, the Rani, Mrs. Flood, the whole lot. And actually, instead, Shooty pulled the rug from under him because Shooty was staying for 3, 4, 5 years. And suddenly he said, I'm off this. This is toxic. This is crap. And so all those interviews when RTD said, oh, do you know, I so believe in Shooty Gatwa that I'd look at the rushes and then I change my script. No, I'd write the bloody script. I'd have the script locked down. I wouldn't be changing it because I see him say babes a lot.
Well, he gave us this. You remember he made a big point of making out that Tennant's doctor was all broken and done in and, oh, you need to go away and heal. I'm your healed version, brother, who proceeded to be a complete crying mess who would just leave his companion to die because he was going to get his end off. I mean, is that the fixed doctor? Is this ultimate doctor? No.
And well, what that told me is he really hadn't thought about the significance of doing the bigeneration, i.e., when he would do the rationale to the public, oh, it's because Tennant is broken, but Gatwa is healthy emotionally. But in reality, the only reason he did the bigeneration was to get that bi in there. He was pushing the narrative, and that's how he constructed it. And then he had to fabricate a rationale after the fact, kind of like the 4 knocks. What were the 4 knocks? And made the excuse that, oh, Gatwa is a healthier version of the Doctor, and yet he breaks down in tears every freaking episode.
Yeah.
And it explodes at the drop of a hat. This is clearly not someone who has their act together, so it totally undercut the message that RTD sent.
This is somebody who's obviously met with Alex Kurtzman and said, oh, we'll have this funny wheeze with some mashups. Oh, yeah, we'll do a computer mashup. Oh, yeah, we'll do this. Oh, I'll get some new writers in who hit the DI quarter. Oh, yes, we'll do. But I can see him. He's like a kid at Christmas Eve. Yes. Oh, it's all like this. But pin it down, lock it down, think it. Is it logical? Does it make sense? Can you join the dots? And it feels like to me, it does feel like to me, my analogy is he's just thrown mud at the screen and hoped that something would stick. And to be quite honest, it now just looks like gross dereliction. It now just looks like an absolute mess, not a masterpiece, a mess.
Remember he said that he can only write what he knows, which is clearly the London bubble, which I like to complain about. There is a London lovey media bubble who are not aware of the rest of the world and what's going on. And it did, I think, collide with the California bubble at one point, where it really was, let's just change the parameters of everything and inject sexuality more and modernize it, not realizing that it was done so overtly and so brutally that no one could follow what the heck was going on. And we were told, if you don't like it, don't watch it, which is a horrific thing to hear about your favorite show. I mean, that was a horrible thing. Go touch grass. We had Tennant telling us I think he told us to fuck off at some point. Excuse me. I hope I don't get any YouTube strikes. Sorry.
If anybody in the thread doesn't like this show, F off. No.
But it was a horrible thing to see people we loved basically telling us, you don't like what we're telling you to like.
Yeah.
When you have very valid reasons not to like it. Come on, this is a lot for us to deal with. And then it was a terrible time, actually. I mean, I think a lot of us have got a bit of trauma over it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's the thin skin of this media lovey, it feels like to me. You can't criticize us. Oh, we can. To be quite honest, these are the people who will be waffling on about free speech at certain rallies. Well, I'm sorry, if you believe in free speech, can I have some? I think your program's crap. I think your writing is crap. I think your last 2 series were crap. I think you devalued the brand. You insulted me and you disrespected Doctor Who. How's that for starters? Free speech, David Harding in Toronto. Do you have free speech there as well? Gatwa being the heel doctor made no sense. Tennant was the broken doctor, but Bi-generation meant Gatwab came along before that healing could begin. Timey-wimey crap, I think we'll call it. Jim Hillis, I've read out your statement and we've agreed Davis's creative instincts are now in thrall to the woke virus. They always were, only now they are off the leash and in the gutter. And now he's at Channel 4. Go fathom. Farsight, he's a chancer. I think he is now. You know, we all get judged really in the end by our last piece of work, by our last show, by our last whatever. And I'm sorry, but he's scraped over to Channel 4 with another gay show, hoping he can get some publicity from the LGBTQ community and start to become trendy on Canal Street again.
And they let them down. He sold this to the LGBT community outright. He made it all about them, all about that. And where were they? We were told that there would be 5 of them for every one of us that left. Where were they? Where are they now? Standing up for the show. Who are the people still here talking about Doctor Who, desperate to fix it?
Precisely. I really, really would like to see RTD sit down with a critical interviewer who would basically corner him and force him to answer some hard questions.
Like
And we
Brendan.
know that won't happen.
I'd be fair with him, but he, you know, I'd be like a Jeremy Paxman type. No, an Andrew Neil. That's what I'd be. I'd be like Andrew, the Doctor Who Andrew Neil. That's what I'd be. I would just line it up, ask him the question, and see where we go next. Basically, as simple as that. So we're talking about the disabling of Doctor Who, and you know, case study number 702, the failed silhouette. You see. Now, in retrospect, in our great autopsy of the great, outstanding showrunner RTD, that wasn't a good idea, was it? Nobody knew what this Doctor was. Nobody knew whether he was the crybaby jelly baby. Nobody knew if he was the tough Indiana Jones. Remember the Christmas special where he's on the top of the train like Indiana Jones? The disco dancing John Travolta Doctor Who. What version was he? And now he's left. Early, nobody knows what the hell he was. I understand the Tom Baker. I understand John Pertwee. He loves authority, he loves establishment, he loves this. We love the cheeky cosmic oboe, second Doctor, and I could go on. But the 15th Doctor, I ain't got a clue. And that has to go down to shoddy writing, rubbish writing, nobody having a clue, everybody rushing, going, do you know, I've got money to spend. It's like a kid who gets their pocket money and spends it all by tea time.
Absolutely. I thought this was absolutely appalling. The Doctor, as a critical character, has a profile, and that profile should be representative of his personality, what that version will bring to the stories for that run of the show. And there was no profile for Gatwa. None.
Well, no, yeah, his ass. that was it. I mean, basically, all you got was show me my booty type thing. I just thought all it was RTD going, get him in some tight clothing. It just felt a little bit like that he was a Ken Barbie doll.
But you know the worst thing we had to put up with, and I was talking about it earlier today again, was how that Doctor, when was it Yes Queen, when a man had died, when when that sperm got cleaned up.
Yeah.
Now that guy, he was a bit of an arse, yeah, right, okay. He wasn't the best boyfriend, but did he deserve that ending? When we've seen the Doctor forgive far worse than that. Who was thinking during that? Any script editor who's got a rudimentary understanding of Doctor Who would go, this doesn't work, guys. This is bizarre. Why have you put this in?
What was ironic, Joe, in that short sequence, it was clear that Alan was asking for help.
Yes.
He was pleading for help. And instead of helping get him out of the trap that he had inadvertently walked into himself, the Doctor is gloating over the elimination of him from the timeline. I thought that was just reprehensible.
It was not Doctor Who. I mean, that was a shocker for any Doctor Who fan, really, that knew the Doctor at all, would have been shocked by that.
Well, yeah, because he always was a supporter of the outsider. And on top of that, if you think this doesn't make sense, because in the last episode of our great Doctor Who, he said, I'm infertile, we're barren. And of course, you think, I couldn't give a toss whether you're barren and can't have kids, because you really couldn't give a toss about another human being who, yes, might have had a little bit of anger management. You know, I mean, he's a human being. But yeah, you're quite right, Joe. I've never seen in Doctor Who so many case study examples of something that would have been edited in the old days as saying the Doctor
yeah.
never goes there.
Exactly. That would have been a no. That doesn't pass the first draft. Sorry, go back and think again.
Yeah, rubbish writing. Who is this rubbish writer? Oh God, it's the showrunner who's now being given a Welsh award for being outstanding. Oh my God. And remember, I won't haunt everybody, but the clips he said at the beginning of the show, and I repeated, he said he didn't want Doctor Who in the hands of somebody who doesn't understand Doctor Who. And he is doing stuff that we are all acknowledging the Doctor would never do in 62 years.
Well, I think what he really was at was, this is not a program I'm the custodian of. I am the arbiter of it. I am the boss. I own it. It's mine. I dictate what it's going to be. And I don't want it to be passed on to anyone else who will challenge what I want to transform it into. It's all about me.
Well, there was a bit of that. The Diva Doctor was done by the Diva showrunner. So, yeah, that was a mistake, the silhouette. But of course, he was so pleased with himself, Joe. 20 years ago, all the geeks and the nerds were the freaks and were just embarrassing. We were the ones ignored at school. And now we rule the world, except that lad who was a sperm and an egg. And sorry, there's collateral damage. The movies, the television, the culture, even Kamala Harris has appeared on Drag Race. He seemed to sound like somebody a bit giddy, who wasn't calm and reasoned. You look at any interview with Barry Letts, Philip Hinchcliffe, I could go on actually, and you know they sound measured, they've thought about it, they tried to join the dots, they realised what would fit the context of the situation. And there's him going, Kamala Harris, Drag Race. He's like a blooming performing seal.
But he's saying the nerds were the freaks, right? So he's saying you know, we were others, and I do agree. Some of us were a bit othered and a bit awkward, a bit autistic like myself. But he seems to have swapped that for this LGBT thing that many lesbian, gay, bisexual people don't want anything to do with, because it's actually not inclusive. It is a little box of its own, whereas my little friends and my little strange Doctor Who world, who are gay now and we're lesbians or we're whatever, but we didn't get encapsulated by him. I don't know. He made it into some strange little clique and kicked loads of us out. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure who he was imagining was going to come through for him, and or who he was writing for, except for himself. I still can't figure out what he was doing.
The thing is, Joe and Christian, that to me, it seemed to me he wasn't doing any thinking at all, Joe. So he wasn't thinking of an audience. He was just saying, he was just getting excited as he did at that concert, saying, I hope we reach out to a bigger audience. Yeah, but what is your strategy? How do you reach a bigger audience? You can't just hope and do fingers crossed with a Disney budget. You need to think. And as a 60-odd-year-old man, did you have the faculties to know how to reach a Far Eastern young audience? Did you really? Or were you just doing an awful lot of fingers crossed and hope for the best and think, if I use an awful lot of hyperbole and I repeat myself and I shout louder, I might get my message across? Because season 1 and season 2, my God, it's got robots, it's bigger, it's bolder. He would shout this out. And then when you watched it, you thought, this is crap.
Goblins. I mean, what?
Well,
yeah, let's impale a goblin as a starting point. Wow, what an impressive start.
Well, you had the chance to buy the song.
There you go.
But I wanted to remind you of how bad this got, because never mind him, his main actor, Shooty, was saying the Doctor has had so much loss and joy and every experience lived to the fullest extent. I just can't get over the fact that he has two hearts and just feels things very deeply. Tears were not something specific we wanted to bring to the role. It was just natural that every single bloody time I saw the script, I cried my eyes out. The writing, my own interpretation, it's nice to have a hero that feels and a man that is not afraid to be in touch with his emotions and grabs any man in rogue and gets into the bushes and bloody hell what you're talking about, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, honestly, he was too in touch with his emotions. He wasn't in charge of them.
Man, he made... I mean, it was a really, I think it was a poor representation of gay people too. They made him so weak and selfish and incapable. We could have had a strong, if gay had to be if that had to be part of it, we could have done that so much better for a start. He didn't have to be so
RTD,
damn weak and pathetic.
Yeah. RTD is all about playing into a stereotype. That's what he does. Obviously, he stereotyped the big baddies, and we know who those are in society as far as RTD is concerned. But he also ironically stereotyped the very group that he claims to be championing. Mm-hmm. And to do that, he had to actually weaken the character. A strong protagonist may have emotions, but they have control of those emotions in order to get through crisis moments. He took that away. He took away any significance to an emotional reaction from the Doctor because the Doctor overly reacted every single episode.
Well, let me just remind you of a few things he has promised us and said, and you'll see the same bit again, but I'll zoom it on. But you'll see.
We're coming back subtler than ever. Thinking, it's like breathing.
Very proud of the fact that we have.
Watch it, but.
I say this is how we see Davros now, without the facial scarring, without the wheelchair or his this, and I'm very, very proud of the fact that we have.
And instead, Speddy splits in half. 2 Doctors. Astronomically exciting.
Why was the bi-generation exciting? I found it embarrassing. When he did it with the Rani, I found it even more embarrassing because I thought, you're not going to get a woman in underwear. And you just thought, once he gets an idea, we got 2. It's like you're suddenly 3 buses come along. We had 1 bi-generation. If it was special, okay. Suddenly, 2.
Well, the bi-generation would have worked a single distinct story where there's a resolution and the bi-generation is undone. This has been played with in science fiction before quite successfully. Farscape has done it. Star Trek has done it. It can work, and it can actually sell a very powerful story as you see what happens when a person's psyche, more or less, is split into different physical representations. But he didn't play this narrative in a way that led to a resolution that made any sense at all, which means what are we left with? We're left with a Doctor who was always available to tap, not only the Doctor, but the TARDIS as well, right down the street in the garden if there's a crisis in London, and it's never addressed again. That is tantamount to the worst possible writing.
Excuse me. I will go on mute again. I was going to mention the Davros thing because that was his launch pad into this new era. And I thought, even if you had a great rationale, this is not good strategy to start by saying to all the fans, by the way, Davros, I'm taking off you as well.
You know, one of the big problems is we don't get the hero's journey anymore. This has been discussed before, that the hero's journey works. It's a sort of fundamental principle that all humans can connect to. The other principle is bad guys. There's the recent thing that bad guys, we've got to understand the bad guys' reasoning. They're not really bad guys. And we've got to deconstruct evil and bad. It doesn't work. Davros physically looked like what he'd been through. He'd been smithereened. He was part machine. He was glorious. He looked great, and he was a brilliant, brilliant looking bad guy. So why the hell he thought, oh, I must, we're going to have to sort of re-portray. I mean, it was really insulting to so many people and badly thought out. So not only have we lost this beautiful hero's journey that usually works as a narrative when you're trying to write heroes, we've lost the bad guy as well. That's why nothing makes sense.
Well, you are absolutely right. The one thing that I guess current day writers lose sight of is that you may have a reason for a bad guy to do bad things. Understanding why the bad person does bad things doesn't mean the bad things are right or good or justified. It just means you understand why they're doing it. And it's interesting if you get that backstory. If he wanted to play with Davros, and this was an 8-minute episode, the moment before he's outrageously injured and does end up in a life support chair, that would have been intriguing. It would have played into the history of the show, and yet you still could have presented a version of Davros that showed him when he was able-bodied. Now it actually fits within canon, and you're still showing him as a baddie. It actually worked on a variety of levels, but he chose not to go anywhere near a credible interpretation of the character or the canon.
I will. I've changed. There's a lot of reasons. Technical. We'll call it a technicality. Randy Howell, super chat. Thank you. Is Disney a part owner of the bi-generation concept? Does that mean the BBC can never use it again? My understanding, Randy, is poor Disney, and you can clip this because it's rare for me to say this, but poor Disney didn't get a look in. Remember what my source said months ago. Disney were phoning Bad Wolf saying, what is this? The data's not good. Disney and the BBC thought they were getting a hard reboot Doctor Who. Then they got these 3 specials, and then they thought, the 3 specials are to kind of, it's the end of the era. It's like the Shada, the end of classic Who, so to speak. It's that kind of... But they weren't, because the giggle had the bi-generation, and the bi-generation then sold us into another. So it was this continuity line. Nobody expected it. Of course, I'm not feeling too much sympathy because they should have been checking the scripts. But my understandings from the sources that when the Disney were alarmed and their audience data was alarming, that he wasn't taking the calls, and Julie Gardner and somebody else had to try and kind of do that. But I think he was just a juggernaut. So actually, my answer to that, Randy, from my source, is nah. This was all RTD. This is all on RTD. RTD disabled Doctor Who. We all feared Disney might have a certain kind of woke input. Nah, we didn't need Disney at all. RTD did it.
Very true.
Thank you for that, Randy. And I will thank you in the way I tend to. I think my Who pets might help me better. Here we go.
You think the Cybermen will help you?
I shall be their resurrector. Look!
The leader, the controller, Jamie.
We need your power.
You belong to us. Release the Cybermans. Activate them.
There you go. Lots to catch up with there.
Brendan,
yes.
those Cybermen were the ones that scared the living hell out of me. Those exact ones, right? I used to. Now this is a weird thing to explain, but I used to think they were coming up my stairs every night when they turned the lights out when I was a kid. I was also into the A-Team. I don't know who remembers the A-Team. There's a guy called B.A. Baracus in it. I used to have a poster of B.A. Baracus, and I had to have a light on it because I wasn't so sure that Doctor Who was going to come to me in his TARDIS. So I believed B.A. Baracus would keep the Cybermen away. That's where my brain was going at 6 years old. But those were the exact ones I'd have nightmares about.
And
So,
aren't you lucky, Joe, that you didn't have the Alan Titchmarsh Doctor, who basically is just in some garden doing "We Love Gardens," because you'd have never thought that gardener doctor out the back, who's so busy in some rose bed, would be bothered about you getting attacked by some Cyberman up the stairs.
Yeah. I wasn't sure the doctor would come for me. I'm sorry, doctor, but I thought you were too busy. So it was B.A. Baracus. For some weird reason, I thought would come for me.
You'd be right, though, because the 15th Doctor, when Ruby Sunday was caught by the Childer, what was he doing? All right, say no more. He wasn't thinking of her. He was thinking of his hormones. Selfish little turd. That's what I thought, what a. Do you know what? I didn't support that doctor when he did that. I thought, we've seen the doctor when he goes, Sarah, and you hear the heartfelt concern when he's lost his companion and he's not too sure what's happened. Well, let's put some Kylie Minogue on and let's get jiggy wiggy.
Oh, I hated that. I hated that scene.
I could not stand watching the front twerking. That just broke all suspension of disbelief.
I don't know how to cheer anybody up because this whole era, I mean, I could show you more RTD quotes, or I could show you a quote from Shooty saying, I'd like to go back in time and stop colonization. You're going, oh my God, this is just, you're toxifying everything about Doctor Who. Are we going to go that political? We've had stories like Colony in Space. We've done all that. Do we really need to go a little bit literal? And by the way, Shooty, if your doctor is going to lie about Nigeria, I don't want your colonization story because it'll be a fairy story and it'll be all upside down and all load of nonsense.
Wasn't that incredible that they made an episode in a country where gay men are still going through hell? And the so-called woke program that was completely insensitive. It was unbelievable. I had to Google it all because I couldn't believe RTD had gone there and allowed that to happen.
But he did. But this is it. I'm anti-colonization, says Shooty, and you go, oh, virtue signaling points, bingo. However, your story, no script editor asking questions, nobody saying, is this a good writer for Doctor Who? This seems a little bit distorted. Didn't the actor, who is actually, his family's from that part of Africa, go, this is a bit inaccurate? I mean, oh, no. What I'll do is I'll lecture the British public. And by the way, when they get a little bit arsey, I'll tell them to go and do one. But I'll tell fairy stories about my fairy story hinterland. Isn't that the place, Shooty, where your family ran from a genocide? Can I just remember the story again?
And by the way, he came here to Scotland. He came to the same area I live in Edinburgh. He went to a brilliant school. He was treated well. He lived in an area, and I've gone off about this several times, that is very hard for the average person to rent in. He was put in an area that a lot of people would give a lot to be able to put their kids into that school in that particular area. One of the best high schools there is out there, by the way. And he was treated so well. And he was much beloved. When we heard that he was going to be the Doctor, the primary school was delighted for him. And my son went to the same primary school. I went to the same primary. It's like me when I found out I was born in the same hospital as Tennant, Bangor Hospital. We're both born in the same hospital. And you like these things. But Shooty just seemed to badmouth us all the time, and I was horrified. I was struggling to stay in this part of Edinburgh myself at the time. And I thought, you ungrateful sod. Well,
Yeah.
I could
I
do
will.
morning about that alone, trust
Well,
me.
in case there's a down moment, because I can see we're all feeling quite sedate tonight and quite calm. As you said, Joe, we're a bit traumatized, and I'm sorry, I'm actually pretty angry still. But RTD always is the gift that keeps giving because he's so thoughtful in every utterance he gives.
We're coming back subtler than ever. Confidence and certainty. Astronomically exciting.
Here's the king, Dublin.
I've had such a good idea. This morning series, Climax 2025 and 2026. I know what's happening in that as well. I think you write with more confidence and more certainty. I think that's a good place to be.
I hate that.
Sack Russell T Davies, sack Jane Tranter, sack Phil Collinson, sack Julie Gardner, and I'll come back. Just don't like being associated with those people.
There's a punchiness to Russell's writing.
I am fighting a battle.
It's like he's taking the guardrails off.
I think on one hand, he's a showman. And on the other hand, he's dark as the pits of hell.
You die in a prison cell.
And he sees the darkness in humanity.
Relentless noise.
He stares it right in the eye, but with absolute kind of mercy.
Cowards like you.
And thought and understanding.
An awful lot of people have masturbated over my work and come up to me and tell me.
He knew when TV doesn't talk down to kids.
I make my mind blank too, sir. It may not be necessary in your case.
When TV doesn't talk down to kids.
All of this is bogus.
No.
Yes.
No.
Where it treats them with intelligence.
It's not.
I think that Russell went, oh yeah, I remember this feeling.
To make that character 15 is so vital.
Imagine now being able to be this political.
Right. Now it would be a trans character walking in there. It's like
we know everything, thanks. And you know nothing?
Topic of wherever society is, that's where you should be going.
It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. She'd have understood.
Yeah. And I thought that's a revolution.
You're assuming he as a pronoun.
Being this influential again, back at Doctor Who.
Yes, sorry, good point.
Something a male-presenting Time Lord will never understand.
It's the best toy set you can have. It's the most incredible power. You've got all of time and space. But it's a kid's show.
I mean, it's interesting. I appreciate Mad Mackham, and I will respond to that. Don't worry. But this has been what a roller coaster from 2023 to now, and what we've seen cannot be unseen. What we've been told cannot be untold. And because unfortunately the program is on a continuum, we can't erase an era. So the damage is there. I mean, you know, if my box hedge in the garden gets box blight, you basically have to hack and hack and hack, or just get rid of the plant. What do we do? And that's why, Joe and Christian, I really am strongly starting to come down on that opinion that I think the only really acceptable way forward for the next few years is a hard reboot. Let a showrunner and a writing team slowly go back to the very bones of what Doctor Who was and present stories.
Make a Bible.
Yeah, I mean, you've always said that, Joe. I mean, I'll just thank you, by the way, Mad Mackham. I mean, people have been very generous, and it's very kind, and thank you. Brendan, cheer us up and show some Who Pets. Here's money for the Who Pet food. So thank you very much. Oh, how can I cheer you up? Oh, listen to this voice.
You said we were alone here, trapped like this, like a sponge beneath the sea. I, Morbius, who once led the High Council of the Time Lords, now reduced to this. Who are you? Where have you come from? You one of the Sisterhood?
I thought it was absolutely vital to do this time so
proud of the fact that I deserve an award, and I have problems with her. And lots of us on the production team that I hired only last week had problems with her.
I mean, it's that Morbius voice. We all know. I mean, Joe talks about those Cybermen and Morbius's voice. And by the way, the other night when I did my little show and I had the Deadly Assassin Master, that voice by Peter Pratt.
Yes. Yeah, but I mean, we don't even get those sort of casts anymore, do we? If you look back, the caliber of actor, and it wasn't like a prestigious job at one point. Let's face it, getting a role in Doctor Who. But my God, they gave it everything, and we had these beautiful hammy English thespians sometimes. And I would love to get I mean, I suppose he gave us what's his name that come in the piano, the god of music. That was
Maestro.
Oh,
we were scared of the ones, these hammy. There was nothing. I haven't been even slightly freaked out from Doctor Who since Capaldi.
Well, there's no scare at all associated with, certainly not Chibnall and RTD2. I never felt a sense of stakes. I was never emotionally engaged. I didn't really care what happened. And that's a sign of bad writing, but it's also a sign that Doctor Who's been compromised on a variety of levels.
Christian, part of what you're saying, I want to put it this way. You didn't care because I don't think RTD really cared about each script. He was just churning them out.
Yes, that's a very astute observation. If he truly cared, he would have produced a script that allowed us to care.
Yeah.
I don't think he cared.
No. Now, I've put on Grant G, hello, saying who pets. It's a good reminder, actually, Grant G, because when we finish the show tonight, this was Garbage Who's idea. I've spent half a day doing this. You'll get a Who Pet cliffhanger. Brand new. No old show. You will get a Who Pet cliffhanger going into the Scream. Oh my God, it's the Yeti. Who's this?
Oh my gosh.
This is a wee Who Pet for you guys. This is Peanut.
There you go.
I thought that was Carvanista.
I mean, I won't say Joe has he, when his day departed, can I have him stuffed and I'll have him as a no. But yeah, they don't like it up him. But but yes, he doesn't want to be a Who Pet, Joe. He doesn't. They get badly treated. So I will tease you even more. Actually, the area I wanted to talk about is the one that every Doctor Who fan can do on Mastermind in their sleep. It's that middle one. It's a prize one. My major allegation against RTD, bottom line is, he said at the beginning of that video in that Doctor Who concert, he said, I understand Doctor Who. I know the rules, and because I know the rules, I know where I can push. I am contesting very strongly. He failed to believe in the uniqueness of the brand. He absolutely compromised it. He weakened it. He wrecked it. It's not recognizable. It's not identifiable. It got lost in the mush of TV when TV now is so competitive. What do you think?
I think you're spot. I think the Doctor was one of the truly unique characters. Mm-hmm. The origin story was beautiful. He was a mad scientist there to teach kids. And that mad scientist there for kids drew in Granny and Granddad and Mum and Dad, and it became a family event every Saturday. And it built up this beautiful, unique. There was, it's just, and then how the show had to evolve as the actors left, and then we got the regeneration and the way it built up. And if we just kept going on that beautiful, trajectory, we could have had something really amazing by now. Mm-hmm. So it's really sad, and you've nailed it there. Failing to believe in the uniqueness. There's not another character like the Doctor out there, and it just shows so little respect for all those families, all those Saturday evenings we all got together, and it was a beautiful thing. It really is. It means a lot.
Well, I was thinking, Joe, that. Didn't he constantly say, oh, I love the way they handled the story of Rey being a nobody in The Last Jedi? So I'm going to incorporate that component or that tone or that narrative in my thread.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is he's looking outside, looking at Star Trek, looking at Star Wars, looking at any other property, saying, I'm going to draw that in, plug it in. I'm going to put in Bridgerton and make that part of my universe. So what you're telling me is you believe in all those other brands, but you don't believe in Doctor Who.
Yeah, he was almost he practiced creative infidelity. He basically didn't believe in the person he'd married. He basically should have been married to Doctor Who. Instead, his head was turned and he was playing away. I'm sorry, he just got it completely wrong. And if he is, I mean, he says he's a true Doctor Who fan. I know he says since the age of 3, but how can he be so compromised to think the Doctor Who he saw, the Tomb of the Cybermen he mentions in the Imagine documentary, how can he turn that into something that plays with Star Trek, plays with Bridgerton, plays with love affairs, plays with soap operas, plays with musicals, plays with the fourth wall, plays with comedy? I'm sorry, all of that at once. Patrick Troughton might have had a one-liner that was funny. It wasn't a stand-up comedy routine.
No.
This man has shown no understanding of the concept of Doctor Who. He failed to see that it was so unique, you shouldn't tamper with it. Do you know what, Joe and Christian? I think he fell for that froth that you sometimes hear about Doctor Who. They say it's got such a flexible formula that you can almost do anything with it. No,
there's a core. There's a core, and that core goes through every person that comes and plays the Doctor. It's that solid core that just has to go through. We've got the Doctor, we've got the TARDIS, we've got all of time and space. He's England based. He's got this alien's got a fondness for Great Britain. You know, there's just these little elements.
I kind of like the observation that Brendan made about flexibility. He thinks it's flexible. Well, isn't a paperclip flexible? And you've all played with paper clips. What happens if you keep flexing them? What do they eventually do? They break. Oh, yeah, sure, Doctor Who is so flexible, he was able to break it.
So there you go, live on our channel. You've got Christian turning into Uri Geller. I mean, I tell you what, I might have an exclusive this week with Philip Morris, but now you've got an exclusive that Christian is regenerating into Uri Geller, and he will be playing with spoons next week. Tune in for that one. Unbelievable. Joe, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't. There's more jeopardy in this show. Coughs, vomits, turning it. What's happening next? Maybe the Who-Pets will all die at the end. Yeah, it's a big cliffhanger. Oh, it's a blockbusting cliffhanger. All with my own little cheap budget of Nout, but Garbage Who doing the thank you very much. Jess, talking about wanting a movie, I know, did you see my show the other day when I kind of slightly scoffed at it after season 1 and 2? Yeah, go figure. What we'll do is we'll make season 1 and 2 crap, and then we'll kind of put a movie on top. Quicksand, sink. No strategy, no thought. The time to do a movie probably was at the end of David Tennant. That was probably the peak moment, but I wasn't really yearning for it. I think you can get too much of a good thing. Hello, David Tennant, case study number 800.
I mean, I'd love a Doctor Who movie, but we're not in any state for one right now. You know, it would be good to have a really well written. But then would it? Because, you know, there's a sort of thing about Doctor Who that we do like it in the TV format, isn't there? So there's a conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I was just like a decent Doctor. I miss the Doctor so much. I miss him.
Well, Stephen Braddock's too right. And actually, we were part of a discussion recently where we were all saying this. Doctor Who used to lead and others followed. Now it just copies everything else. And I think as soon as you become a copier, you become a cheap imitation, you become... You're not essential viewing. You are certainly not essential viewing, and you just dip down the order of importance. Doctor Who, if you go back to 63, and I really do think Doctor Who can. That's where the hard reboot comes in. Can you imagine with the expertise nowadays, everybody, you could get a new version of Doctor Who. They do it with Miss Marple. They do it with Sherlock Holmes. Why are we the only brand where Doctor Who can't be reinvented in that way? I honestly don't think creatively we can limp on to 65 years of continuity, 70 years of continuity. I think you need to say, stop, it ends. Billy Piper falls out the TARDIS and spews herself on that spoon on that planet. I mean, that's it. And then just start again.
Can I ask if anyone else, because in my little orbit and people's general opinion when I'm talking about it, they all want it. They want Disney Who to just be decanonized. They want Capaldi regenerating into someone else, and those two never happened. I hear this all the time.
That is the most common request I hear from people in our circle. Everyone's able to find something of merit from Eccleston all the way up through Capaldi, and that seems to be the demarcation line, the hard cutoff, because I get very few, if any, saying, let's sanction the Whittaker run and after, because that's definitely the best Who we've ever had. I never hear that.
Mind you, I remember, everybody, I do put my questions to the source, and the source said, what, do you think you can go to the, right, you're the new showrunner of Doctor Who, and you go to the BBC, who don't watch the show, but they know enough about the general picture, and you say, what we're doing is we're retconning the first female Doctor out of Doctor Who, and we're retconning the first black Doctor out of Doctor Who, and the first gay Doctor out of. Can you imagine? Can you imagine them spluttering over their tea, going, "What?"
You can put all those things back in when it's right, when it works, and when it's not going to be done badly. So it's not due to those simple things. I mean, I would argue in their face, as you know, those are not the reasons it failed alone. There's a way more to it than those three things. So don't be giving that crap to us. You know what I mean? That's just crap. Doctor Who has had all of this stuff. This is no, I wouldn't take that at all. I think you're absolutely right that would be the comeback. But the fact we had a female and a black Doctor and gayness, it's not why it completely fell apart. Have it had been done well, smartly, and in the better ways, we might have been able to do something with all of that. But it was done badly.
I would say, Joe, just one thing, which is we're assuming they pay enough attention to it to actually care. There's a part of me that wonders if they would even think about that, because they're so disconnected from it.
It's shameful. They should be ashamed. The BBC, the way they treat Doctor Who and their attitude to it is despicable. I mean, it disgusts me, and I can say that because they'll never hire me, so I can see what the hell it was. They should hire me, but it's disgraceful.
I'll second that. Gareth Morgan, I'll bring in a bit of the thread to show I'm not blind. I might be coughing and spluttering, but I'm not blind yet. Gareth Morgan, the real question is, who were the real ghostwriters used in the Eccleston Tennant seasons? Clearly, he cannot have written them. Those seasons were written by writers with discipline. Gareth Morgan, isn't that the sad indictment? Of course he wrote them. I do believe he wrote them. The sad thing is, as me, Joe and Christine have been saying, he had a strong script editor then, a good one. He also had Julie Gardner in the country, not in Hollywood, able to question him a lot. And he trusted her, and there was a bit of give and take there. All that's been lost. Plus, he's like one of those toads. His throat's inflated, and he believes in himself a lot more. And as he said in an interview last year, he employs nobody who questions him. That's what's changed. We all need people who question us.
Oh yeah.
But not.
I mean, that should be part of it. Making a good show is this debate, and especially something like Doctor Who, that you should absolutely want to get it right. That should be your first. Right? How are we going to do this right? Not how am I going to inject my current way of thinking?
Yeah. So our uniqueness, and this is the other thing. Russell T Davies now has on his creative tombstone for Doctor Who. He played around with Carol Ann Ford from the very beginning, because in the end, I don't care what his plan was, it fell on the floor and she ended up on the cutting room floor. This is the biggest insult you could ever do to her, I would have thought. He surely, and this is the problem, John Christian, he was so busy playing with things like a bit of Mrs. Flood for 3 seconds, a bit of Susan for a flashback, because they weren't integral to the plot and they were just playing, because she wasn't integral, she could be on the cutting room floor. And I think that's the biggest disgrace. Why wasn't she integral? Why couldn't we have, by now, after all these bloody stupid episodes with babies and musicals, why couldn't Susan have been in the same room as the 15th Doctor, had dialogue, and actually been significant?
That
That's
would
on
have
you,
been a
RTD.
huge plot story. It could have been done with a bit of gravitas, a bit of darkness. It could have been everything. That is huge. She is a huge deal.
Oh,
I mean, really, she is. So what? You're right. I mean, and they've just thrown money down the toilet with Space Babies. We could have had some good. We could have had an amazing storyline here.
Yeah, I mean, and it would have. I mean, a good writer would have made sure it didn't fall into soap opera. A bad story, would have fallen into soap opera. Going, I'm your mum or I'm your granddaughter, all that crap. But honestly, yes, it could have been Dark Joe, because I was interested in this because she has so much to say to the Doctor, like, why the hell did you desert me? How dare you?
But Brendan, we were now told that how can she be his granddaughter if they're not capable of having children now? So that's all in the flipping air now, isn't it?
Yeah. What an idiot he was. He swept up that sperm and egg. He might have needed it. He could have been a surrogate. What an idiot he was.
But they've thrown that cannon in the bin. We had the Doctor and his granddaughter. That was fundamental. That was the beginning of our journey. Doctor and the granddaughter. And you've just... Why undo that? Why? What was the need for that? There was no need to do that. It was good he had family out there. It was good it was left in a bit of mystery. One of these enduring sort of things. It was doing fine. And he's ruined it now.
Christian, going back to what Doctor Who should be, if you're RTD 2.5 years ago with Disney's budget, instead of faffing with Mrs. Flood, who none of us had heard of, instead of bringing back the Rani, who none of us were yearning for, instead of bringing back an anorexic Omega that none of us were asking for, instead of bringing back a Snoopy Sutek that none of us were even imagining, why wouldn't you go back to basics? We'd had the stupid timeless children, so we've played around with the origins, so why don't we go back to a safe origin? Do you know what? We saw more of the fugitive Doctor, Christian, than Susan.
Absolutely. There were, how shall I phrase this? Low-hanging fruit, easy story narratives that would have been very compelling, not expensive really to produce, that the audience would have glommed onto quickly, and you didn't even have to go so far as to retool the timeless children misstep. You just go forward from that point on. I keep thinking the potential to repair the damage that was done by doing proper stories with proper characters and even proper callbacks if they're done right was readily available, and he did not utilize any of it, certainly not in a productive way.
And look at it. Look at the thread. I was at Utopia at Milton Keynes, and Carol Ann Ford was scheduled to speak, and she cancelled. Now, she could have been ill, of course she could have. But a lot of the fans thought, she's been fronted up to go to all these events, but what can she say? I ended up on the cutting room floor. It's not exactly a great story, is it? And then fans saying, well, what did your character do? I mean, honestly, from what we heard, in a way, we couldn't win. This idea that she was at the back of a party next to other characters, a bit Star Wars-esque, it sounded crap.
It was the same with the Rani. Did we ever get an explanation as to why the Rani was always there? I mean, did we ever get
No.
any point to any of that?
They were like the witches of the West, weren't they? Just flying around, and it just felt like give them a broomstick. That's
It
all.
just felt like, oh, I've got Anita Dobson. Look.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
remember,
okay, brilliant, we love her, but well, okay, you know.
And remember, he's joked, everybody. Remember, he's joked and he's messed with Classic Who. Look at that Dalek. He took the sink plunger away, remember? And he changed it. Remember, this is the man who doesn't understand Doctor Who anymore, or he knows it so well, he thinks it's his to break. And just you remember that Destination Scarrow, because we all go on about Davros, but remember the sink plunger, and remember he changed the Dalek. I'm sorry, but this man just showed all the alarm bells for going, don't give him full reign without any pushback. But what they did is they gave him full authority, even to the point where very important, very powerful Disney weren't getting any say.
What was Tennant thinking? I would love to, I mean, he was a mega fan himself.
Yeah,
I wonder what, again, we'll never get the actual truth, but to get Tennant to go along with that is quite astounding, actually.
Well, I think you're right. I think we'll never get the truth from Tennant. He is a mega fan, but he was also compromised by the virus. So in many respects, he's got to compartmentalize in order to protect what RTD wanted to envision the show as. I wonder if a part of him still knows that it was a mistake. Would he be willing to admit it to himself?
Good old Batley here. Good to see you. I wouldn't have been able to take a Susan and Gatwa scene in any way seriously. Susan belongs to another era. I thought the same with Sarah Jane and Tennant. Fair enough.
Too good for Gatwa. She was too good for Gatwa. Her and Capaldi might have been quite compelling, actually, to see. She deserves someone with that level of talent.
That's when she should have been brought back. Capaldi had gravitas.
Yes.
And he had a grandfatherly persona that very much harkened back to her own grandfather through Hartnell. And so seeing that configuration would have been a wonderful story to tell. Instead, we got, Bill Potts.
But there's so many questions we've got, which is if you're this outstanding showrunner and you think the Rani must come back, why did we need two? I've argued tonight he has diminished Doctor Who, but he diminished the Rani. He sliced her in two. He made one a subservient idiot, and he made one this kind of, space babe. What the hell was it? And then she got eaten up. Why? If you were the script editor or somebody in charge of the budget, you're going, why are we getting two top actresses when one will do? I don't get it.
No, if this story had been done properly, it would have been a case of she had interfered with his regeneration initially, which is how we got the bi-generation, and something happened between the two of them, and one of them basically evaporates or dies, something that shows that the bi-generation experiment that she had toyed with the Doctor as a precursor isn't stable. Oh, now we've got a problem to deal with, and now actually the Rani has a more relevant role to play in the narrative, as well as a send-off for one or both of the incarnations. But again, we didn't get that. The Rani served no purpose really at all.
Can I just say, Mark Milford, I understand it. It's incredible. But Disney didn't want to be interfering regarding Doctor Who. They were quite happy to get this content of this British brand that's very unique.
I think Russell went in there with his balls on the table going, look at my big balls, I can do this,
Yeah, and Disney, so I know what you're saying, Mark Milford, and it's highly suspicious to think anybody as powerful as Disney would stand off. It's when they started to see the rushes and their audience started telling them what the hell is this product, that they were trying to say, our early stages, we're worried about this. But remember, my source said to me, Disney had already decided they were out after Space Babies. They weren't being listened to. This was not what they bought into. 100 million, okay, end of, bit of a waste, but we'll leave. It's just not what we wanted. It's not what we expected. But they didn't come in, as we suspected, with an agenda. It was RTD who thought, thanks for the money, I'm going to just do what the hell I want, and you'll just put up with it because I'm super fan. And it didn't work. Zach written here, as RTD2 had to drop Susan in the rewrite of the season finale due to Shooty quitting, why did he still leave Susan in the Interstellar Song Contest? I know. I think it's because he didn't have the heart to drop her completely. But then, of course, we ended up with all these stupid Easter eggs everywhere. I mean, one of my big questions was, I want to know what the hell was going on with the Doctor's anger management issues. How was that going to be resolved? Was she going to, hug it out with him? What was he planning?
Well,
now, remember, in one interview with the SFX magazine, he said you should never leave unfinished stories for another season. Well, never mind Shooty leaving. He was going to leave Susan up to season 3. More fool him. Hubris, complacency. He thought he had it in the bag. Thank God RTD is nowhere near this product now.
Well, it just occurred to me, wouldn't it have been interesting if upon Whittaker's regeneration, it had been to Capaldi, and then the 3-episode 60th anniversary was a narrative exclusively focused on Carol Ann Ford's return? That would have been a nice send-off for both of those characters at that juncture, I should think.
Yeah. We've got Tidy Boy here. There's no explanation of anything that happens and too many loose ends, so there's no sense of satisfaction in watching. Yeah, as some people were saying in the thread earlier, who's going to get the box sets? Who's going to watch them again?
No one's going to rewatch any. I have absolutely no desire to see any of them again. None of them. We just go back. Like I said, we've been visiting much older Who, been enjoying a bit of Pertwee recently, but I would love to see the figures because I doubt these will be being watched. I don't know anyone that's watching them twice. They can barely watch them once.
The thing is with Doctor Who is we like, you see links in Time Warrior and you think you're seeing links again, as Sarah did in Sontaran Experiment. The Master returning, with the Cybermen, the Daleks, that sort of thing. We're Doctor Who fans. We like that. We love the three Doctors.
Watching it. How many times do we watch it? I mean, some episodes we must have seen maybe 100 times because we love it and we enjoy watching it. And that was the beauty. One of the many beauties of Doctor Who was the rewatching, which is still going really strong. And I guess it might be bringing people to the older Who's because there is nothing right now.
But this is it, Joe. If I loved the Omega in 3 Doctors and I liked the Omega in Arc of Infinity, what you're seeing on screen, I can't make a link.
No.
And so it was just a compromising and an ambushing of classic Who. That doesn't look... I mean, it made no sense, Sutek. Nothing made sense. You bring Bernard Cribbins back. I know he was ill. But these characters weren't utilised. Bonnie Lanford, why bother bringing her back? She was just called the Mad Auntie in the end.
She just looked daft by then, didn't she? She'd just been dragged around. And then remember, they made a point of having their diversity with the midget lad on the scooter. He disappeared. They made the TARDIS friendly to wheelchairs and I don't think they ever had a single wheelchair in there. I thought that was for her with the rocket wheelchair. I thought she'd go in the TARDIS at one point. Because they made a big point of making it friendly for her, but no, that didn't happen.
No, maybe another loose end, Fergal O'Hagan. Thank you very much. I honestly do think RTD was making it up as he went along. I don't think I will be rewatching this. I barely just watched them once. Well, it's just Fergal. What can you get your teeth into? I don't understand what I'd want to be watching it for. We all look out, like Tomb of the Cybermen, when they break out of the tomb. There's certain set events in Doctor Who, City of Death, when they're in Renaissance Italy, and that you have that great camp dialogue, and you watch an episode, but you look forward to those key scenes as well. But
speeches. We never got any great ball bust. Capaldi did one, and my goodness, we were all on the floor going, wow. I felt that one. I felt right put in my place. Neither Whittaker nor Gatwa gave any sort of speech that made any impact.
No. But all I have to do, and thank you, Fergal, so I'll thank you my usual way, but all I have to do is show any old Doctor Who, and I know it's giving you all a lovely nostalgic tingle.
I understand you've lost a couple of scientists. Oh no.
What's wrong? It's Gooch. It's Gooch.
Look for yourself.
Gooch must have left in quite a hurry.
Yes. Yes, he must.
Yes, he certainly did. Now, one thing, remember the Who Pit big blockbuster cliffhanger at the end? We're all Doctor Who fans, so there's a cliffhanger at the end into our, scream of Doctor Who music. But one thing I wanted to ask the panel and the thread about, we haven't touched on yet really, is that second one. How RTD focused on a lighter brand of Doctor Who. He seemed to think it should be all about jokes. It should be all about little quirky bits, a little bit of lightness regarding a dance routine at the end of Devil's Chord, a wink to the camera. I'm sorry, but
no.
The only thing I can think of, we're talking about missing episodes, and I'll ask Philip Morris about this week, everybody. But the Feast of Steve, and a lot of fans are talking about, will that come back? We understand there's a slight moment when it's a happy birthday, a happy Christmas moment. But honestly, Doctor Who didn't do all this nudge, nudge, wink, wink all the way through.
No.
Well, would you like to see them suddenly have, I don't know, the 16 Gatwa episodes disappear, and each one is lost as a classic missing episode is returned intact in its entirety? How many of us would like to see that exchange take place? Do us all a bit of a favor. But as you were saying, he thought that babies, space babies, and snot monsters and dancing routines after a drag queen villain appeared, that would bring humor and a lightness and a childlike friendliness to the show. I don't think it brought anything to the show at all. It
didn't need any of that, and it ruined other things as well, because the merchandising has fallen off a cliff. Because if we go back to say 2013, I was buying loads of Who stuff, and for myself, because I like to buy it. Adults like to buy it. My son's buying it because he's fighting Daleks and smashing Matt Smith off all sorts of, and it was good fun. And all that was gone. They didn't seem to think about merchandising or anything this time round. So that's quite telling as well. And you can't do that with lighter characters. You can't go and buy the toys and have fun with it. I mean, what's he thinking?
But if everybody looks at, say that, I mean, am I being unfair? If you look at the Maestro's costume, with all the budget they had, to me, I thought I was looking at a kind of a new character from the 1960s Batman. You actually
nail on the head there. It went quite campy, Batman-y. Yeah, it did. Which is not Doctor Who.
Not Doctor Who. And so, if I was the showrunner taking Doctor Who seriously with a serious budget and wanting to go global, I would be arguing the toss about those collars and that lapel, because I'm thinking this is a bit cartoonesque. I mean, yes, she's music, but what, you're going to wear a keyboard around your neck? I mean, I'm sorry, but it just seemed a bit funny. The Beatles, of course, what the hell was all that about?
They managed to make babies being eaten alive into nothing scary. The goblins were like doing terrible things, which actually should be pretty damn scary, right? If you think about it. And there was absolutely no sense of any peril at all, anywhere. I can't think of a single time I thought, "Oh."
Yeah, I mean, Christian, there was a moment I clipped out. I didn't want to kill everybody tonight with all the clips. But one of the clips from the Doctor Who concert, everybody will remember it, is he was talking about Murray Gold, and suddenly he says, "Oh yes, maybe not season 3, hubris here, but in season 4, we'll have an all-instrumental, non-dialogue episode." Now, I know he was being cheeky and stupid, But you know that also there was a slight glimmer in his eye of doing something that's never been done before. But he was forgetting that he was trying to stop Doctor Who being thrown to the lions, and he knew that Doctor Who had rules. And I'm sorry, but if in 62 years we've never had an instrumental musical Doctor Who episode, then it's not in the rules, is it, Christian?
It's not in the rules. There are specific rules to certain stories, certain series, certain formats that you have to adhere to if you're going to make it credible. And most shows don't start with a firm set of rules, but within a certain number of years of existence, those rules become self-evident, and they have to stick by those. He didn't want to stick by any rules. He wanted to make it up as he went. And I can just picture if he had gotten the money he wanted and continued to receive the freedom that he desired, he probably would have tried to craft that music story.
Yeah, well, I mean, I cannot get myself to watch the Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode that is a musical. Now, if these two men are talking, why would they do it? The bottom line is, when I make the allegation that he's disabled Doctor Who and he's diminished Doctor Who as a brand, he's made it now just light comedy. And that makes a lot of the public go, I don't know if I need to watch it.
It's not even funny, though. It's not even, like, there's not even a slight laugh at any of it. We're bemused. Not amused, we're bemused.
And I'm this, and this is a gay man talking, but he seems to be thinking that the only version of making Doctor Who light is to make it camp, and that was the danger in the late 1980s, where it veered a little bit into that territory. And there were moments, I know you know me with Sylvester McCoy's era, sorry folks, the early ones, Paradise Towers, it felt too theatrical. Delta and the Bannermen, I know I'm going to get loads of abuse now, but that kind of thing. Time and the Rani, it just felt like theatrical. And, I mean, even Kate O'Mara in Time and the Rani wasn't Kate O'Mara in Mark of the Rani. She was camped up and more Dallas in her costume compared to Mark of the Rani. It had been camped up, and that was part of the problem. And now we look at what we get. Now there's UNIT. I mean, they saved the world. Look at this on the DEI quota. The Doctor is women. Mostly women, because this is the future now, that women will run the NHS, women will run the BBC, and basically, interesting. Wheelchair-bound scientific advisor. Okay, whatever. The only man there. Sorry, it depends if you follow the Supreme Court. But the only man there, Colonel Ibrahim, he's a toy boy, and so he's not a man in his own right.
And this is why a 15-year-old boy stopped watching. Who in there is somebody that a 15-year-old boy is going to come and watch Doctor Who with? But,
not even close.
Yeah, if you're saying Doctor Who is for everyone, and Doctor Who's for the outsiders, and Doctor Who's for those of you out there in dark times, right, okay then. I think the women are covered. I mean, there's an argument there whether womanhood is covered in all the, spectrum. But men are not covered here. You've got a crybaby Doctor who's not a hero, he's not a leader, he's bloody useless. In fact, in The Legend of Ruby Sunday, he thumped the wall in a fit of pique. He stood there while Bonnie Lanford told him off. He was no leader. I hated him. I know as a kid, probably like Gabriel, I'd have thought, I'm not watching this. I don't like him.
The women characters suck as well. The only one worth any salt in there to me really is Bonnie Langford.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Colonel Ibrahim is an interesting point, isn't it? Because you look at UNIT in season 7 or in season 5 and 6, and you look at battles, helicopters, explosions, stunts. And yes, it was probably more masculine, but it's the military, for God's sake.
Yeah, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, the army aren't famous for having their Mardi Gras at Christmas. I mean, for God's sake, it's the military. Why turn Colonel Ibrahim? He obviously, once he's finished work, he makes a cup of tea for his boss, and no doubt they don't go home. It's like, where's
and they had to sexualize her, Kate, who was doing fine, but they had to get sexy into her somehow. I think that was pathetic. She didn't need that. She didn't need any sort of love life nonsense going on, did she?
And remember,
Little her as well, Kate Lethbridge. I think you were done wrong, madam.
And Christian, which one of them represents you?
Oh God.
I'm beginning to think maybe the plant on the shelf closer to representing me than any of these three.
Right, in dark times, Doctor Who is for you, says RTD, and we speak to you. Yeah, all right, okay then. I was looking at them all going, is this what you think we are? I mean, what the hell? You know, I don't know. It just seemed all very... My concern, Joe and Christian, is cosplay is obviously a thing. I think in the old days we used to call it dress up, but it's now called cosplay. But cosplay has gone to such another level. There's nothing wrong with dressing up and stuff, but this cosplay has almost become a thing. The Childer wanted to cosplay Bridgerton, remember? That was the plot.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And, you know, they look like three cosplay Doctor Who fans, not authentic Doctor Who fans. Therefore, again, it looks like 1960s The Penguin.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us do, like, you know, it could have like a Shining t-shirt on, or just showing their, you know, they tend to sort of, the younger ones have sort of, you know, it's so contrived, isn't it? That's maybe what's wrong there. I mean, I would portray a bunch of, I mean, I would probably have had my granddad in, and I wouldn't have just gone for young, racially diverse and a disabled person. Oh,
I know.
I think that's what's grating, is the contrivance of it. Because those people probably wouldn't hang around in real life, would they? They don't look like a natural bunch of friends.
No. It looks as though it's maybe an adjunct to a care home. I think it looks problematic. So this was my kind of journey down memory lane, everybody. I know that these 2 hours you won't get back, but you will get you will get a Who Pet cliffhanger blockbuster. But before I come to the blockbuster, I want to thank Joe for your time, and I want to thank Christian for your time. You're always value for money, and everybody does appreciate your authentic, genuine, well-meant opinions. They do. I certainly do, and it helps. And thank you for that. Thank you to the thread. And remember, this week, Philip Morris will contact me, and one of the nights this week, we'll have an exclusive with Philip Morris about the missing episodes and his opinion on season 2. You'll have to tune in, everybody. But in the meantime, I'm sad to say one of the Who Pets, or maybe all of them, are going to get it. This is the moment that Garbage Who, give him a subscription, has been preparing me to do all the editing for. Here we go. But there's going to be jeopardy. Somebody's going to die, and RTD's on the loose. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.
RTD wants Sensphere shut down. Those Who Pets have had the last hand up them. Time to die. This is giving me the creeps. This never happened on Finger Bombs. One by one, they're all mine. They don't like it up 'em. All this walking, I wish I had my Benidorm motor scooter. Cry havoc!